You're caring about, like, you know, okay, I just put on, you know, some weight over the holidays, and you know, what's my New Year's resolutions, and you know, what am I going to do this year? And so we did and you know, Native again being so broad, you know, we did some co-branding with Mashable, and we created something out of nothing called the Dream Job Series. And Dream Job Series was all about you know, something very aspirational, and it was, you know, companies that were in tech, and you know, how do you get a job? And the second part of the series was, what's it like working at these companies? And so to align this brand that no one cared about, you know, with something that was interesting, and to put it interstitially that way, worked. It worked really, really well for the brand. So we've seen it work and not work, and I agree though, I think that it's still, the definition of it is still not set.
Yeah, I'm curious, sort of in the room, how many of you are thinking of advertising as a way to acquire users or get your message out? Okay, and then how many of you are thinking of it as a way to make money kind of in your ads? Or, okay, so it's about half. I think
raising your hand both times.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that the story is a little bit different for publishers and advertisers as well. Because you can affect performance either by finding the right person and showing them the right product, or you can affect performance by making your ad easier to click on. And you can do that in good ways, in the sense that you know, it fits in with the background, or you can do it in bad ways where you've got like the X that won't click out or that kind of stuff, right? But in either of those two cases, there are sort of upsides and downsides, right? When you target way too much so that you find the one person that wants the Uniball pen on New Year's Day, there's only one of them, right? So targeting as a solution to everything can go too far. And then native, good or bad, or sorry, native, you know, when you implement it to the logical extreme, is sort of like, I don't know it's an ad, I click on it automatically, and it's a bad user experience. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I would just add, I mean, I think that the goal or the intentions of native, of, you know, having the actual advertisement feel like more of a part of the actual content, be more contextual, is a great thing, right? You would want to have that as a consumer, as an advertiser. The term and why the industry got behind the term native, to me, is marketing speak, is almost a little bit mind-boggling, because native has existed since the dawn of advertising. If you're looking at, you know, soap operas or advertorials, you know, and so I think how it then parallels to mobile is actually interesting, because you're trying to offer the right user experience. You know, we think of ourselves as a mobile video products company, and we didn't have a solution for a particular experience. So, you know, we came out with, you know, our, if you want to call it, native ad unit, which is our instant feed ad unit. And this is really more not to go native, but to create a video ad experience that's acceptable to the user and the advertiser in a mobile scrolling type user interface. So makes a lot of sense for news or social. Obviously this is a big play for Facebook as well, but native as a term is kind of interesting that's now the new coin genre.
No, that's definitely true. And speaking of user experience, you know, we've been hearing that a lot of advertisers are actually starting to move away from those pop-ups and banner ads. Now, dynamic and actually interactive ads are becoming more apparent. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, they get great response, right? There's a reason that rich media advertising is growing very quickly, and the video advertising is growing very quickly. It's a highly effective thing. I think for small advertisers, there's upfront costs involved creating rich media ads that you have to think about in a trade-off. One of the good things that's happened recently is, you know, iOS basically allows you to put videos in the App Store for your apps to describe them. So that's a major use case where if you're going to make an investment to create a video that you can then repurpose and use in multiple contexts, that single channel probably makes it a lot more worth it to do that. It's definitely becoming more and more ubiquitous. We're certainly seeing that.
Gotcha. And Tim, I know that Ad Colony does a lot with video ads. You know, how have you been really incorporating those types of dynamic and video ads into the digital and mobile space? And what kind of traction have you been seeing with the consumers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we obviously had a very early belief in video, and, since inception have only done one thing, and that's, in-app mobile video. So we're obviously, big believers in it. It's kind of where the heat is at the moment. For us, the first was, kind of solving that latency issue. You can't have a mobile experience that's not snappy, that's not instant. That's what the user is going to demand. And then from there, it was really trying to, customize the experience for that medium. And, video is great. We work with both, Fortune 500 brand advertisers, as well as, about 70% of the top grossing developers on the App Store today doing user acquisition with us. And I think that there's obviously a very, obvious benefit to working with video as a medium to convey your message versus, static text and static images. Beyond that, we've spent a lot of time and investment actually innovating on the post-video engagement. So when we launched initially, that was a static image, like click to learn more, click to download. We then innovated that back in 2012 and 13, where we have dynamic end cards that feature, full animation, rich media. You're able to call out, certain actions or what have you. And now it's getting to a point where, with HTML5 and MRAID and OpenGL, you're able to really provide like a full-on demo of what that product is, and the user be able to interact with it, whether it's, a level or tutorial of a game or, a particular brand product. So.
Gotcha. What do you think are the do's and don'ts of video and dynamic advertising?
I mean, from our perspective, the length of the video, actually, Tawny is with a company that does, I'm sorry, we do two call-outs. We have Tony and Tawny, and they both, I happen to both know them both through work.
I thought you were calling me Tawny.
No. Tony is your expert here he's with the company Uni, and so they do video. And Tawny's doing mobile video. So they both can feel free to weigh in. This is interactive. But what I'll say from our perspective, and just testing and iterating as much as we do, is that 30 seconds is forever. And so length is a really important thing to pay attention to. A lot of times advertisers will just use their TV spot and we'll just run that online. And it has nothing to do with what that person was doing. And so thinking about where their headspace is and what they're interested in tailoring that, giving them some value. Otherwise it just feels like, oh my God, just 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, it's forever. So I'm sure there's a lot more, but those are the main things that we think about.
Yeah, I would say, in terms of video, duration, shorter is better. We've had the technical capability of running up to 2 minutes. We did one 60-second ad once for Wheaties that performed like 9% click-throughs. It was mind-boggling, but it had great creative. But typically they're 10, 15s, and some 30s from brands. But I think that trying to move the industry from the advertiser side to go shorter, really to customize it to the platform is key. And then I'd say from an advertiser's perspective, buy the audience, don't buy the content. Like, go after the audience. There's enough data, there's enough targeting to hit any segment that you can imagine. And from a publisher standpoint, I would say take a productized approach to monetization. So your in-app purchases, those users, that gaming experience, that app experience has to be fun and engaging. And just as you're going to develop that experience, you can incorporate advertising the same way.
To feed off that, in a publisher perspective, focused on just pure monetization of revenue, but yet creating a good user experience. So Slacker, we didn't have video content, it was purely music. And actually we used Yumi. That was our first video platform after Yumi bought out Transparent back in the old days. So we first integrated the Yumi platform and it was great. They had good branded content, 15s and 30 seconds. 30 seconds obviously made more money. and it is good for a certain time, for a certain period, and you guys are still good. I'm not by any means, but ultimately we ended up migrating over to ad colony, right? And it was because both of them cached. So as soon as the way we executed it was between station changes. So you go from a hip hop station to an indie station. During that transition, we fired up the video. And so kind of the learnings on what do's and don'ts, make sure you have enough timing between the time that you show up a video to the next time you show up a video, right? So like, I see this on ESPN all the time. I'm going from the MLB page and I want to see a 20-second clip, I gotta watch a 30-second video. And then I go into the NFL page and I want to watch a 60-second clip, I still have to watch a 30-second video. I get it. I mean, ESPN needs to make money, right? So I get it. As a publisher, I get it. But if I'm looking at it as a consumer perspective, that sucks. The user experience sucks. So even for Slacker, we had to play with the timing with like 6 minutes between song changes, or 10 minutes, right? So we played around with it. When we did 6 minutes, we had horrible reviews. When we moved it to 10 minutes, it was okay, right? So anyways, kind of going back, Ad Colony, they focused on 15 seconds, right? And for us, it works. It could be 30 seconds for a lot of other publishers. And in one of the campaigns, it was a Nike campaign, there was also a post-clip at the end card, right? So you saw the 50-second clip, there was an end card. There was a post-clip engagement to watch a 2-minute clip, I believe, on the Nike thing, right? So it gave the user an opportunity to see the 15-second clip, and if they really wanted to, and we got paid on 15 seconds. We didn't get paid on 2 minutes, right? We still got paid on 15 seconds, but if the user wanted to, they could see the full 2-minute clip.
Right? They can go right back.
That's right, and then go back into, and if they want to watch the whole 2 minutes, that's great. If not, they go back into the music experience. But I thought that end card execution was phenomenal for us because we got paid on 15, right, seconds, but the advertiser could also get that 2-minute experience, 2-minute value.
Drive them to YouTube, drive them to a mobile web experience.
Yeah, that's right. And then also going back into the non-rich, right? Going back to static. Again, now, being a non-video content, I don't think static will ever die, right? If you look at programmatic, all the programmatic buyers are buying off scale, right? So when they're buying off scale, they're buying on the web top or on the web desktop. They're buying the leaderboards, the medium rectangles. The medium rectangles are the biggest money makers for programmatic, right? For mobile, based on scalability, and it's a buyer's market in programmatic. So the 320 by 50 will not die because there's a huge demand for 320 by 50. So yes, rich media is great. You're gonna make a lot more money on rich media. Executed properly so that you don't get bad reviews on your apps. But as far as the scale revenue, it's the 320 by 50. I mean, it's not going to die. It's not going anywhere. It's only going to get better, as Tim mentioned, by getting hyper-targeted, using all that data that's out there now, and being able to reach that right audience. And that's one thing I'm learning a lot from Uber Media. They're focused on reaching the right audiences. Bill Gross, who's the founder, I mean, he went out and bought like millions of transactional receipts. Like, he bought a bunch of receipts from brick and mortar stores to apply that data into the audience target that Uber Media is already doing. So, if you're starting to collect brick and mortar receipts and tying that to usage behavior and then the UDID and all these unique IDs, your targeting is going to get pretty darn good.
Can you guys, I guess, elaborate a little bit on that too? Like what kind of data you're looking at to really make sure you're targeting a specific audience?
Now, I'll continue on. So I know, I'm getting going now, right? But what's really cool is we're seeing a bunch of signals, right? So before, if you focused on social signals, you were looking at like the Twitter feeds, right? But you apply social signals, and then you apply location signals by certain polygoning of certain areas and users doing certain things based on that long. Then you apply like other view signals, like they're watching a bunch of YouTube videos, right? You apply that signal. So if a golf enthusiast is watching a bunch of like PGA material on YouTube, right? Bunch of golfers all day long, but yet, you know, they're using a certain golf